everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we are going to be doing the commentary / analysis for episode 20 of Miraculous Ladybug season 4, Qilin. Now before I go any further, as always, I'm about to spoil the whole episode for you. So if you haven't already seen it, please check the description box for some links to where you can go and watch. But please know those links will eventually expire as the videos get taken down for copyright and things like that. And yes, before anyone asks, yes, I have also seen Penalty. I've already filmed a reaction video to it. And maybe later today, after this video, I finish editing it, because I'm not expecting this video to be that long. I don't have that many notes, to be honest. I will hopefully also film the Penalty video today, but there is no way I can get both commentaries edited today and uploaded today. So I think I'm gonna make the Penalty video today, but you won't see it until some point tomorrow, just because, first of all, I don't want to burn myself out in rushing to make 2 commentary videos. They do take a while to make, if you're wondering. I do all my own video editing. It's just me doing this, and I also have some PhD work to do today. I don't want to I don't know what the correct phrase is, but I don't want to bore you with 2 commentaries in one day. So it's going to be up tomorrow. I promise my analysis for Penalty will be up tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Honestly, I don't even know why it's out. I bet Gloob. I bet Gloob are annoyed because they were meant to have the premiere. But I'm assuming was it an error this time, like with Risk? I don't know. However, I am feeling a lot better about Penalty being released early. I got an hour warning before it happened, so I was like, okay, I got no warning with Risk. I just woke up and it was there, and I was like, okay. Alright then. Plus as well, not that I wasn't looking forward to Penalty, but it was clear from the trailers it wasn't going to be as emotionally charged as Risk and Strike Back. So I can handle the stress of these 2 episodes since they weren't that emotional. But yes, Penalty analysis will be up tomorrow. But yeah, feel free to talk about it with me in the comments or on Instagram or whatever, since I've seen it, but please be mindful of other people who may not have seen Penalty yet. They may be waiting for the Gloob one, so if you are going to talk about Penalty in the comments, maybe like put spoiler in capital letters right at the start of the comment. That would be wonderful. So let's get into this, besties. I would give it a 6 out of 10. It was a good episode. It wasn't the worst episode of the season. Definitely wasn't the best episode of the season. It was okay. And I'm not really going to talk about the animation quality. I think even me, who knows nothing about animation and has bad eyesight, even I could tell the animation quality was not good. And there is a problem if I can tell. If I can tell the animation quality is bad, and it doesn't usually bother me, then there is a problem, but I'm not judging the episode on animation quality. Like, I don't know enough about animation to do that. The same way I don't really judge the episodes on the voice acting and the music and directing, because I don't know enough about it. I'm a writer, I judge the episodes on how well I think they've been written. So yeah, it was a okay episode. Not the best, not the worst. Probably, I would argue, below average, but also not the worst episode of the season. Sabine was absolutely wonderful, and the Lady Noir relationship in this episode made episode 23, Kuro and Echo, the plot of that one, make even less sense. But that's not a problem with this episode, that's a problem with Kuro and Echo and the order some of these episodes have been put in. Honestly, with the way the season stands right now, I think I would have put Kuro and Echo after Wishmaker, to be honest. It seems a little bit odd where it is, but that's not really the issue of this episode, just a passing remark. And I also felt like the motivation behind Sabine's akumatization, and actually the motivation of a lot of the characters in this episode, was a little bit odd, but we'll get into all of that as we go through the episode. I like to kind of do these chronologically. So first of all, Sabine. Oh my god. A legend. Oh my god, everything she does, an absolute legend. I loved her before this episode, don't get me wrong. I've always loved Sabine. I love her even more after this episode. A living legend. We do not deserve this woman. I love Sabine. I've been waiting ages for her to get akumatized. That kind of sounds mean, but I love her so much. I was like, yeah, I want like a Sabine focused episode, and we get one that's not that well written with poor animation quality. So I'm like, you did deserve better, Sabine, but let's try not to go with that. Like, I really do love Sabine. Like, can she be my mum? I love this woman so much. She's so wonderful, and she's so understanding of Marinette, even though she doesn't even know that Marinette is Ladybug. We could argue she does know, but I don't think she does know. Even though she doesn't know that, she's still really understanding of all of Marinette's responsibilities and stuff like that. She she's just lovely. And I also really loved the Sabine vision thing, where I put a picture on the screen. I'm talking about when she was on the bus and she was like, man in the wheelchair, this horrible man, paintbrush, something else. Oh, the red light, that was it. Legend. I love it. And then she also has her own painting class. Amazing. And speaking of which, Lila was in that class. That would have been the perfect opportunity for Lila to say something. I've kept saying this whole season that Lila needed to have more of a presence this season. If you've seen Risk, she has a pretty big part in Risk. She is in the episode for a significant amount of time compared to the rest of the season. However, it is a little bit jarring her being in that episode, because up until episode 24 Panel Team, she hasn't said a single thing all season. And I can say that with confidence now because I've watched everything apart from Strike Back. She hasn't said anything until episode 24. That's the first time she speaks this season. This episode would have been the perfect opportunity when they were looking out the window watching Ladybug and Cat Noir. This would have been the perfect opportunity for Lila to say just one or two lines. When I say Lila should have had more of a presence, I don't mean she had to be akumatized. I don't mean she had to have a whole episode focused on her. I literally mean for all the episodes that have been in class, because I know this season they've had less class episodes, which is fine, fair enough. I wouldn't expect Lila to be in an episode that really isn't a class focused episode. But during those class episodes like Wishmaker, like Guilt Trip, like Mega Leech, why couldn't have Lila said just one or two liners to like show the audience like, hey, we're still here. She's still there, she's still being horrible, she still hates Marinette, she still has this vendetta against Marinette. So this episode would have been a perfect opportunity for that. To maybe when they're looking out the window to make a comment about how much she kind of doesn't like Ladybug, but how come like they're kind of like best friends if she's still going with that narrative. Honestly, even I'm confused by all of her lies. This would have been the perfect opportunity for it. And they just had her there, so great. So then we move on to Marinette, who has no money. Why would you go outside without any money? I hardly ever leave the house without money. What is wrong with you? Okay. And then Sabine, absolute savage. So I was like, oh, I missed the stop, I missed the bus. And she's like, I know, I'm on the bus. Hilarious. So the episode opened pretty well, but now let's talk about the big scene with the inspector, who, first of all, horrible person. As the episode went on, I was like, you are a nasty piece of work. I was like, new suspect for Shadow Daddy right here, new candidate for the future Shadow Moth, because I was like, you are horrible. Oh god, he was awful. Now when we only got one trailer for this, but when the trailer released, a lot of my comment section, and from what I looked at other Miraculous comments, there seemed to be a lot of talk about whether or not this episode was going to focus on racism. And it's not that I'm opposed to it focusing that, but I'm not 100% sure if that's what it was about. I really like when the show does tackle bigger issues, and in fact it's kind of what I'm doing for my PhD. Not so much with a focus on racism, although I am kind of looking at that slightly, but basically what I'm looking at is how to use the genre of science fiction to address mental health stigma in kind of a subtle way, but to tackle the stigma at the same time as drawing people into this fantasy world. So I do kind of know a bit about how you would do this. If you don't know, when you finish your PhD, and I am in my final year of my PhD, by the time you kind of finish it, you are expected to be an expert in this field, so I know pretty well how to write into a certain genre, a certain issue. And I mean, I'm not 100% sure if this was the goal of the episode, but if the goal of the episode was to show any discrimination that Sabine may face, I don't feel like it was 100% clear, because I really do feel like the whole scene could have been interpreted as the inspector was kind of just like the bus inspector version of Roger. That he was just like, all for justice, you don't have a ticket, great, I don't care about your excuse, I don't care if you have a daughter, I'm a horrible person and I want to give you a fine and arrest you and identity check. So I think it definitely could be argued it was racism, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was. Just from my PhD and the things I've learned from other writers and all the reading I've done, I just feel if it was going to be about that, I do feel it could have been executed a lot better. So I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I know obviously racism isn't something you would normally tackle in a kids show, however kids shows, and kind of with Miraculous, although it is less obvious because it's for a older target audience, for a kids show, it has to be educational in some way. So for very young children's shows, they'll be about like counting, learning colours, learning shapes, that kind of educational. But because Miraculous is like an 8 to 10-year-old, they could look at bigger issues like racism, but do it in a subtle way so it's not obvious, but so they still learned a lesson about how to treat other people. So whilst it's not something they could tackle head on like they would in a show for maybe teenagers or young adults or adults, I 100% get that. I just felt like it was a bit too subtle, and I don't particularly feel like if it was the intended reason that any real lessons were learnt for the inspector. I don't feel like he's going to be a changed person. Do I feel like he's going to be nice to Sabine from this point on? Yes. Do I feel like he's going to be nice to all people for the rest of time in this job if they're in a similar situation to Sabine? No. I still feel like he's a horrible person. So I'm not really sure if that's what they were trying to do. It really came across. I definitely think it could be interpreted, this episode, as being about discrimination, but I'm not sure if it came across. What do you all think? Just because of my PhD and what I've been trained to do with my writing, I'm not 100% sure it came across if that was the idea. But yeah, like, I mean, like there was a line at the end when Ladybug, right at the end of the Akuma fight, she says you need to have humanity when you apply it to law, so I was kind of like, okay, that's kind of following through with the theme if it is about racism. But if it's leaving you wondering what it was truly about, then they quite clearly haven't executed it very well. Like I said, I'm not even 100% sure. I've kept checking Thomas's Asterix Twitter all morning. I haven't seen him confirm that it was meant to be about racism. However, you know, the name of the episode, it was linked to Chinese mythology. There was also a lot of aspects of Chinese culture in the episode as well, so that's kind of also leading me down that route. But I just don't feel like the interaction and the way everything played out was very well executed. Like for example, Mega Leech, about it being about the environment, but also looking at Milen's anxiety. Also, those are very different issues, I'm aware of that. But I felt like that was executed so much better. If we compare how the issues are represented in both episodes, so the environment and anxiety in Mega Leech and racism and discrimination in Qilin, I feel like Mega Leech was much better executed and subtle in a way that it wasn't like shoved in your face what the episode was about, but obvious enough that children would understand. That's like, Mega Leech is a really good example of if racism was what they wanted to talk about in Qilin, it should have been done in the same way Mega Leech was done, if that makes sense. I hope I did make sense. As you can see, I'm probably going to fail my PhD viva because I really struggle talking about my research. I'll work on it for my PhD. I've got better, I've got a lot better. Making videos actually has really helped me explain things better since I have to explain it for the rest of you, but I'm still working on it. But yeah, it's a whole thing. But either way, I think we can all agree, whether or not he was being racist, that bus inspector was being absolutely awful for absolutely no reason. I mean, first of all, why didn't the people on the bus, like, I'm pretty sure the man in the wheelchair was still there and the other guy who'd been on like the conference call or whatever, they had both seen Marinette, so had the bus driver. Why didn't one of them be like, oh yeah, we saw them get on with their ticket, surely the bus driver saw them scan them. They all saw Marinette, they all probably saw her take the wallet and get off the bus, at least one of them did. Why weren't they saying anything? And then Roger? Like, this is what I'm saying like about the bus inspector. He was very much like Roger, like, I don't care about your excuse, you've committed this crime. But he was absolutely awful. Why didn't he at that point, once they got off the bus with Sabine? He had his car, he was right next to his car. Why didn't he just drive Sabine home? Because he knows where she lives. I don't know how the IDs work. We don't have IDs in the UK. Do you have spare IDs? I don't know, but she could have at least paid the fine if he took her home or whatever, or got Tom to like validate her identity when she was at home. It was just odd. That's what I'm saying. The motivations behind this episode were odd. Because Roger and everyone on the bus were just acting without any common sense, which is leading me to believe that it was about racism and discrimination, but at the same time, if that's what the episode was about, it wasn't as obvious as it was in Mega Leech when those issues were, well, different issues were discussed. So this is why I'm confused, because a lot of the motivations in this episode were just bizarre, basically. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe by the time I finish editing there'll be confirmation on Twitter. I have tweet alerts up for Thomas Astruc and he hasn't said anything, so I don't know. But so I don't know right now. I'd love to know your thoughts on the episode. Do Did you think it was about racism? And if so, did you think it was executed really well? Do you think it was really obvious? Do you not think it was obvious enough? Because I'm really not sure right now. I'm really on the fence. Like, I'm not opposed to an episode about racism or discrimination of any kind, but I feel like if you're gonna tackle it, let's give it the attention it deserves and let's do it well, you know what I mean? Like, if we're gonna do it, then let's do it. Let's not just do it a bit. Like, let's do it! You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're really gonna do it, then do it. And I just felt the premise of the bus thing, when there were so many witnesses to it and when Roger knows who she is, was just a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But also at the same time, I kind of think that's because just the kind of person Sabine is. She's so kind and lovely. She's amazing. That, I mean, how much would it take to get Sabine angry enough to akumatize her? It would have to be an unfair situation like this in order to get akumatized. So I kind of get that, but also, I really loved how Madame Bustier was akumatized in Zombie Zoo when she was protecting Marinette, right? Why couldn't it have been a situation like that? Perhaps Marinette again, or just someone else was about to get akumatized and Sabine stepped in to protect them and got akumatized instead. Like, Sabine and Miss Bustier, in terms of their personalities, they're very similar with how kind-hearted they are, and whilst I 100% understand why Sabine was very angry in this situation, I would have been absolutely livid in this situation if this was happening to me. I feel like an akumatization like Miss Bustier's in Zombie Zoo would have suited Sabine's character a lot more. I'm not saying the Akuma of Miss Bustier, like, I love Qilin, she was amazing, she looked fabulous as well, oh my god, that outfit, beautiful. I think my favourite Akuma outfit this season. But I feel like that would have suited it more. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, besties? So Qilin was absolutely amazing, her power, chef's kiss, beautiful, and Sabine even refused Shadow Daddy. A queen. We love Sabine. Like, at the start of this season, this channel was a Marinette Dupen Cheng support group. Now this is going to be a Sabine Cheng appreciation group. I love this woman. She is like, how did Marinette forget to buy her a Mother's Day present? Why don't you just make her something in the big... I don't know. Like, I feel like Sabine would be fine with anything for Mother's Day, but okay, whatever. Then we move on to the Lady Noir and their relationship in this episode. Wonderful, same as in Simple Man, same as in Dearest Families, the two episodes that come before and after this. There's nothing wrong with it. It was wonderful, they worked together really well. It's not an issue for this episode. I loved seeing some wholesome, well working together Lady Noir, but I was just a bit like, why did you stop being Cat Noir and Kuroneko when Simple Man, Qilin and Dearest Family and most of Ephemeral, you're working really well together? The episode order to me doesn't really make that much sense right now, but again, like I said, not the issue of this episode. I loved seeing a well working together Lady Noir and how Cat Noir jumped in to save her with his umbrella that is apparently lamppost / bench proof. Okay, whatever, I need an umbrella like that apparently. However, I did kind of feel, this is kind of another reason why I wasn't a big fan of this episode, was that the way it was solved was a bit odd. Like, don't get me wrong, I kind of liked the way it was solved and we went down into the sewers, an iconic location of course, and also the best line of the episode when he was coming down to try and chase Cat Noir, he was like, I'm gonna arrest you for an absurd use of little cat ears and a bell. Wonderful. I thought it was hilarious. However, they say before that, like, they present the most easy way to solve it themselves, where Cat Noir's like, well, let's go and get her daughter then. Like, I feel like Sabine would have broken out of the Akuma as well if Ladybug had de-transformed, obviously in private, and then come forward with like, oh hey, I've got the wallet and the tickets, sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. And then Sabine could prove to Roger and the bus inspector that she wasn't riding the bus without a ticket or whatever, and then she could have broken out of the Akuma, because I don't feel like Sabine would have blasted her daughter or whatever with her powers. So why didn't they just do that? That seemed like the easy solution. Don't get me wrong, I did kind of like the way it was solved, but like, they said themselves like, oh hey, we should just do that, and then they proceeded to not do that, which would have been the easier way to solve it. So why didn't you just do that? I don't know. So it could have been done without the Lucky Charm, without the sewers bit, although like I said, it was funny. So I don't mind it that much, but maybe if you wanted to solve it that way and you wanted to have a Lucky Charm in the sewer scene, perhaps you just shouldn't have had the character say, oh hey, perhaps we should just go and get a daughter then. You know what I mean? Like, just don't say that. Because that would have been the better solution. So it would have required a lot less effort. So I don't I don't know, I guess in a way, yeah, it could have made Cat Noir suspicious that Ladybug didn't come back. Again, she would have needed to do the Lucky Charm and also do the Miraculous Ladybug to repair everything. I do get that, but it just seems a bit odd for them to mention that's the best solution and then for them not to carry through with the best solution. So why would you bother mentioning it? I don't know, but then Sabine, the absolute legend she is, broke out of an Akuma. So we've had Chloe kind of do it. She didn't get fully akumatized, she did it kind of in Miraculous before she even got akumatized. Then we had Alia and Gang of Secrets, then we had Nina and Rocketeer, and now Sabine. Yes, Sabine. Love Sabine. Bloody love Sabine. And then the way Cat Noir came at the end to defend his future mother-in-law, not that he knows it. Fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous. There are a lot of things to like about this episode. I was just a bit unsure about the motivations behind some of the characters' actions. Actually, most of the characters' actions in this. Not the worst episode, but I think it could have been a lot better, especially if they were planning to tackle racism and discrimination. Like, if you're gonna tackle something like this, I really feel like you should put a bit more effort into it. I don't know, like, I'm autistic and I have faced a lot of discrimination against me because of my disability when I've been like getting jobs and stuff, and they haven't really looked at disability. I guess they kind of did in this episode with the wheelchair space. Not that I'm physically disabled like that, but I feel like if they were going to do an episode of Miraculous that did look at maybe disability-based discrimination, whether it was about autism, which is what I have, my disability, or some other kind of disability, I would want them to do it justice. I'd want it to be an amazing episode that really looked at the issues, that helped children to understand, but at the same time was still a really enjoyable episode. So I'm just trying to think how I would feel if an episode had been about the discrimination I face, how other people would feel, and I don't know right now. I feel like I'd be a bit like, if this was like meant to be the episode highlighting the discrimination that they face. So yeah, but again, I'm also not 100% sure it was meant to be about that. But if it wasn't meant to be about that, the character motivations were also very odd anyway. So it was okay. It was okay. 6 out of 10. MVP, obviously Sabine. Oh my god, Sabine. Sabine, why can't you be in the show more? I love Sabine. Oh my god. Sabine, oh. Wonderful. I don't think she's ever got the MVP before. It's probably because she's hardly ever in the show. But I love her so much. So I think that's all I've got to say. I mean, there's no point speculating what happens the episode after because we all already know. There's no point saying anything else. Yeah, thought it was good. Not the best, not the worst. Could have been better, definitely. And if it really was meant to be about racism, I feel like it could have been done a lot better for an issue so serious as that, you know. I mean, especially at the minute, I know obviously this episode was probably planned years in advance, but at the minute with the pandemic and all the discrimination going on in some countries, mainly Western countries, towards people who are Asian, whether or not they're from China, because of the virus. Like, obviously, like I said, I know this episode would have been planned years ago before COVID even existed, but I just feel like it could have been done so much better. So yeah, not the best, not the worst. I'd love to know what you think, besties, and yes, of course, the penalty analysis will be up tomorrow, and then I think we're just going to do a risk emergency screaming session on Monday. Forget the Dark Cupid screaming session. I was going to do Dark Cupid for Valentine's Day. I don't think you'll care now because Risk came out, so we'll just do a Risk one, and we'll save Dark Cupid for Valentine's Day next year. Because I was like, what are we going to do next year for Valentine's Day if I do Dark Cupid this year? I was like, well, turns out, Hazel, you're not doing Dark Cupid for Valentine's Day anymore. You're doing Risk instead. So I'd love to know what you thought of Qilin. Besties. If you want to leave me a whole essay about what you thought about the episode, that is fine. I can't wait to read it. But please put some paragraphs in it or bullet point it so it's just easier for me to read, because I have bad eyesight and I have a feeling I'm going to be editing a lot today and replying to a lot of comments as well. So I'd love to know what you think, besties, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!